Disclaimer: no data subjects were harmed in the making of this podcast.
Welcome to the Privacy Bar and Bants podcast. We make privacy awareness simple. Sit back, relax, and grab your darkest privacy myths and misconceptions. Your mind-boggling experience begins in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh,
Our
I need to
lovely
drink water.
CEO and
So,
our
well,
anyway,
right,
so who
because
am
you
I?
are.
I'm Yetunde
Okay,
Industry.
next. Next question. Next. So, okay. So how do we do this? Okay. Oh yes. Oh, we're recording. Oh, nice. Oh, nice.
Hi, Eti.
Hi, Dela.
How are you? It's our first episode for season 3.
Why are you laughing?
Well, because I'm thinking of how many times I thought about giving up on the second season, and now we're at the third season, and I'm thinking of how many times I'll think of giving up on this season too.
No, you're more gracious than me. I'm thinking of sleep. That's a lot more gracious than me, because I'm thinking of a bit of sleep.
But I mean, it's so exciting being on the first episode of season 3, right?
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Tell me about it. Oh, my gosh.
But I'm reliving the moments we recorded the first, let me not say moment, the moments, because we recorded the first episode of season 2, I think about 3 or 4 times, and I'm reliving those moments and I'm laughing because here we are doing this for the what now? I don't know how many times, but yeah.
Do you know what's funny is that for me, like, I feel like recording first episodes because of our episodes that season, I feel like first episodes are a bit nightmarish. Like it's like a nightmare to record them. So am I excited about this being our first episode? Objectively, yes, but like, am I excited that it is a first episode? No. But in terms of it being another season of Privacy Bambats, I'm actually so proud of how far we've come. It's crazy how much. It's actually, it's been a year and we're recording another season of at least the podcast version of it. So and so that's actually, it's fun. I'm actually excited to sort of see how this season goes and what's like what it brings. Last season we had so many like interesting experiences, some that we can't even talk about on the podcast. I can't lie. Yeah, but I think, what was your highlight of last season?
Am I sure I have a high? So I think the highlight of last season was the first time we released an episode and the first feedback we got. I mean, that had to be amazing, knowing that someone listened to you and they listened through to the end. And you just start and say, "Oh, what's this? Moving on." But they listened through, and apart from listening through, they also, they thought it would be nice to leave a feedback or a comment, and that really warmed my heart.
I mean, that's nice. That's nice. That's actually nice. Funny enough, I think when we closed out for the season was my highlights. It felt good to look and see that we had come that far. So at the end, when we looked back and we saw like, oh, people had actually listened. When I saw that people had actually listened, I saw that like people were listening. It's strange. Like, it didn't come together for me until the end of the season and people actually listened to us talk about privacy. And it was just strange. At the end of it, it felt it was like a sweet, very sweet spot for me just to look back and see, okay, we pushed out this many episodes and like people actually listened to it. Yes, maybe the numbers may not have been as massive as we would have been optimistic for, because we have to be realistic as well. We're a new podcast and everything, but I mean, I think it's encouraging the numbers we had. So
and it's worth celebrating. I mean, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of me. I'm proud of I'm proud of the podcast.
I'm proud of our ability to do editing notes for so many episodes that we recorded. I'm proud of even the episodes that we recorded that didn't even go out. For one reason or the other.
Honest, I'm not looking forward to doing editing notes this season. I
That's
don't think I'll ever look forward to it.
That's always the issue. I don't know the editing note thing.
But I mean, personally, how was last year for you?
Well, it was strange. So actually, for most people listening will probably not know this, or maybe they haven't clocked it. Like I haven't really spoken about it, but I was actually away from privacy as a whole thing last year. So I mean, I was involved in something else, which hopefully you would come to know about um subsequently, hopefully. But like I was away and out of the fold. So it felt there was a very big disconnect between me and privacy related stuff last year. So actually, funny enough, this year I'm I'm looking forward to catching up and growing as well. I feel like there was actually was a big pause for me. I wouldn't say I've been doing privacy stuff for a long time. And I don't think I've not been here for that long. I mean, I'll say I started 2021. And so taking out a break like that so early on, which was necessary, um, and then coming back after, you definitely feel a bit shaken, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's life. You go through different phases, you have fresh starts at things, and yeah, you grow. I mean, the same me who started it, the would is starting it again. So I mean, it's not like I'm coming from a totally like I'm blank or anything. It's just that there's some things that I would have liked to have stayed abreast of, that I probably didn't get the opportunity to. But I mean, that's life. That's life. That's what makes it fun. So
I
this year,
mean, it's
a huge
amazing how you
challenge
found the
for
strength
you.
to still, record episode after episode, or some episodes at least, even if you're not so in the
Yeah,
space. And we're happy to
yeah,
have you back in the fold as well.
it
Even
was
if when
oh
you
my
say fold, it
God.
makes it sound weird, like we're like,
It's the
eh.
fault though, is it not? Like it was so strange. There was a particular episode we recorded, and we had fortunately for us, we had actually planned the episode much, much earlier on. So it wasn't so that was another thing that really helped. Have the fact that we had planned episodes, because not only was I out of the fold, I was also really the thing that took me out of the fold required quite a lot of my attention. So I couldn't really I wasn't even interested, in all honesty, in keeping up with anything. I just wanted to focus on that thing and get it over and done with, right? Hopefully, my one track mind, be my one track mind approach pays off, right?
It will
But
pay off. I'm rooting
hopefully,
for you.
ah, ah, bruh. We'll see. But we can only hope. But yeah, it was certainly it is certainly strange being back. And then obviously, as we're going into a new season, we need to plan episodes. And honestly, you don't even want to know how. I actually think not for the first time. This season, I think I'd be able to relate more with our listeners who are trying to maybe make career transitions or come into privacy or explore privacy related stuff. I think I would be able to relate more. And I think it's going to make for a much more balanced podcast, because guess what? I'll also be having a lot of I don't understand what you're saying moments, which I hope would also help bring clarity to things for people who are listening. So I'm
Yeah.
all bad. I think I'm looking forward to this version of the podcast
I
where
mean, so many exciting learning moments. And that brings me to something funny I learned last week, right?
well,
So I can't remember where I saw this, right? But you know that there's this, like, I was years old trend where you say I
where
was today years old because you learned something new, right? So
mm-hmm.
apparently, Italy, did you know that for every first episode of a show or a podcast or a season film, it's called pilot because that's the first time they're on air.
Oh, 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 this is
It
one of
took
those
you a
things
moment,
where
right?
it's obvious, like obviously, but then you don't make the connection until,
Exactly.
yeah, no, that's so. Anyway, there's another one I actually saw, funny enough, speaking of that recently as well. Do you know like pen covers? You know
Mm-hmm.
the cover of a pen? You're supposed to use it has that little tab on the side that like looks
Yeah.
like a handle. Apparently, that's to hold down like pages of paper when you're writing. So you
Really?
use like a paper clip, yeah, to hold down.
Oh, oh, I never thought of
That's so strange. That thing for me is just to make music. Like, when you're putting the tab and you're like
that.
making sounds. That's a musical instrument to me. I didn't realize it actually served a purpose. It's strange. I wonder how many other things are like that, like where the thing is so obvious right?
And you
But
don't
like you
realize it.
don't realize and
Yeah.
I've been seeing a lot of those I was today years old videos. Maybe we should actually do I was today years old privacy edition. I feel like
I
that would be
think we
fun.
should.
I think we should, you know, I think it'll be particularly fun for me because it will force me to actually look at things that are very
You have a
interesting.
lot of catching up to do.
Things I have catching up to do. Maybe we should do one. I mean, I couldn't think of one. I was 3 years old off the top of my head, maybe because I have not been doing as much reading as I'd like to. Um, yeah, but like I mean, I've been learning random stuff as well, just knowing random things.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
that has nothing to do with privacy, but still, I really feel like I need to be able to do. I was 3 years old privacy edition, so this is it's a challenge. We'll see who can one up the other person, or who can one up the other person anyway. Even when we have guests, we can have guests as well do it and see who, like, if our guests can give us a better I was 3 years old privacy edition. It's
I
gonna
really
be
agree. And I mean,
fun.
a lot of learning moments to come.
Excited, excited, excited. Okay, so yeah. So tell me, Dulako, what has been going on in in the African privacy space for the last 1 year?
So
What
before I
have
go into that, it's remember we have a very exciting announcement.
Oh my God, yes. And we already made this announcement on our page, on our LinkedIn and Twitter,
No,
didn't
but we
we?
have to do it on the first episode. So please do
Okay,
the
okay, okay.
honors.
I'll let you do the honors.
Okay, we're very excited. I am Yetunde, your host for Privacy Bambat. We're very excited to let you know that we're now on Apple and YouTube podcast.
It's so exciting. I remember when we finally cracked it. I don't know, for some reason, like, do you know what? It is very interesting how podcasting has been a journey for us. Like, it's been learning because there's so many random skills we picked up in the last year.
Yeah, really
So
true.
many, like I didn't know how to set up. I'm sorry, it's not my business to know how to set up a podcast. It's my business to listen to the podcast. So for anyone out there trying to start a podcast, if you need one or two pieces of advice on setting up across different platforms, slide into my LinkedIn DMs. Please
We're always
slide
happy
into
to
my
help.
LinkedIn DMs. This is a lot of knowledge I don't want to waste. Okay, let me share with you the beauty and the wonders of setting up, the joys of setting up a podcast. But yeah, I'm so excited. I think I'm really looking forward to also giving more people the opportunity to listen to our podcast. Yes, we did good numbers last year. Thankfully, all of you guys were amazing and we did do good numbers. But I think going on other platforms will give other people who more accessibility or greater accessibility to the podcast. So yeah, that's something I'm excited
I
about.
agree. Let's
Oh,
wind
you
it
know something I
down.
wanted us to do? Oh my gosh, before we even go into you giving me the gist of what has been happening, I want us to talk about read some comments from last season because you guys are so sweet. You guys are so sweet. You guys are too sweet on this. You guys are
I
listening.
mean, fans of the pod they deserve an award.
Literally, you people are really, you're not even fans, you're friends of the pod because you see the support you give us, that's friendship level stuff. That's the hard stuff.
Hardcore stuff.
That hardcore stuff. I was so grateful to you guys. Honestly, we couldn't have done it without you guys. Really, thank you so much to everyone who listened. To everyone who listened to half an episode. Like, thank you so much. For everyone that shared episodes, for everyone that sent us comments, feedbacks. Really appreciate it. And one thing that I'm actually also hoping that we do a lot more this season is actually encourage you guys to give us feedback. So there's now on LinkedIn an option available for you to send messages to a page. So you guys can actually send us a message there, or you can send a message to Dorakpo and I personally in our LinkedIn DMs. We'll definitely respond. Or you can send us a message, a DM on Twitter, or you can leave a comment on any of our, any of our posts, except photos, any of our posts on social media. You can also send us an email. Yeah, you can send us an email.
Yeah.
If you go to if you click on our the website page link on our bio, there's a it take you to a page and you can see how to send us messages, DMs, emails, and stuff. We're really looking forward to hearing back from you guys on how we're doing, what you want to hear from us. And we want to make the podcast more your podcast. Like we want it to be driven based on what you guys want to hear and see, and less of like what we think. I feel like last year we did a lot of what we think we should do. And this year we want to hear more from you guys. We've even received some DMs actually, because we did a post asking for feedback. that's the first person I'd actually let me do a shout out to her. Her name is Susan. Yes, Susan sent us a DM responding to our post asking for people to give us suggestions of people that they would like to see on the podcast. And so we really say thank you so much, Susan, for responding. Thank you so much, so much, so much. We look forward to more messages from you and to also picking up on that conversation subsequently. Yeah, so I mean, let's read some of our comments from last season. That's how I really want to do. I'm actually so excited. I mean, I've seen the comments before, but obviously reading it to you guys is a different experience. Okay. So, Zach, what do you want to start?
Okay, so I'll start with one that really got my heart. There's a funny one that I'll go to next, but there's one that really caught my heart. And this person said, "Oh, fantastic insights. This podcast provides a fresh perspective on data privacy and challenges us to think differently, right? Thanks for sharing." So, it's someone saying that you bring a fresh perspective. I mean, you're a breath of fresh air to data protection, and that's really exciting.
And
So,
that's
that really
right.
warmed my heart.
That's good. Like I think my favorite, I have two that I want to read, and they're from our guests actually, funny enough. So the first one's from Temitayo Ogumoku, who was on our international visa transfers episode, demystifying, yeah, that episode. So with Temitayo said, had a lot of fun joining the Privacy Bands team to discuss one of my favorite topics in privacy practice. You can listen to the conversation via the LinkedIn post. Thank you for having me indeed. Let's keep the conversation going. Yeah, that was nice. And then the second one is from Ridwan Badmus, who was on our day in the life of a data protection. What was day in the life of what's the episode title? Oh my God, you guys, I'm so badly behaved. I am so badly behaved. It's
I will
ridiculous.
not help you.
I actually am badly behaved. Oh my God, that just it was on my mind. In my mind. It was on my mind and it suddenly just like disappeared. Anyway, okay, so it's day in the life of a privacy engineer. Thank you. See, I've been out of the fold indeed.
I have no words for you.
He says it was fun. Oh, yeah, he was commenting here as a listener. So it says it was fun and discerning hearing Emmanuel Salami speak from professional and academic perspective. I also learned from yesterday, and I didn't read this comment because it has my name inside, okay? Um, a better way of enlightening a friend who's oblivious to their privacy rights and implications. Thanks to Dolakwo for the insightful questions. So yeah, those were I think they were so nice. They were nice. There were such nice comments. So yeah, I mean,
So one funny one was when we were asking fans of the pod to sort of guess who we're bringing on, and we'll put like silhouette images of people, right?
yeah,
There's this person who said that Ridwan's picture, that's Ridwan Oloyede, who was on,
yeah,
I think Ridwan was on the episode with 21 questions with Ridwan, right?
you did run away, yeah.
Yes, and then this person said, "Oh, the silhouette picture looked like Sonwolu," and I'm like, "Really? How? How did you make a connection?" But I'm guessing it was because of the cap and all. But I mean, I found it really funny. So another comment that got our attention was so this person said, "A really fun yet educating podcast. My thoughts my thoughts on the privacy name for incognito mode. I don't totally agree that this is same as anonymity, because private search, as it is called, only conduct an internal erasure of your browsing history from your device, but externally you still remain visible to websites you have visited or search engines, and your ISP can still see your browsing history and IP address. And this why it is said that you can still be tracked somehow, even though the data isn't stored. I mean, we totally agree. I think this part of the podcast was when we were trying to play a game, and Yetunde was trying to get me to guess a particular word, right? So she was throwing words that relate to
I
anonymity.
remember
Did you
that.
remember that part of the podcast?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember,
So it was
Oh,
us trying
okay.
to get someone to guess a particular word. So we're saying words that could relate or that could point you into that direction.
Oh, so the person thought we were saying, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
I mean, we
that's
totally agree with
fine.
your perspective,
Well,
definitely.
yeah. And I think it's good. I like comments like this because see, we can clarify things, you know. So it's fine. But you guys please leave us comments. Let us know how you feel, what you think about the podcast. Just, send us like comments. even if they're negative, like I think that we are growing in podcasting and doing and privacy as well simultaneously.
Yeah.
So it'll be nice that you sort of throw in your comments and just, encourage. And if you would like to like be mentioned when we read your comments, if you would like your name to be mentioned, you can also indicate that in the message. But yeah, welcome.
There's this funny one. I think it was
Oh, which one?
so I think we were asking people to share what's the word now? Is it wrong ideas or what do we ask? Myths, right? So we're asking people
Oh,
to share
privacy
myths.
myths, yeah.
Yes. So there's this funny one when we're asking people to share myths, and this person said something she has repeatedly heard is GDPR compliance is for big companies, and that got me laughing because I think that's one of the biggest myths you would actually ever find.
GDPR compliance is for big companies.
Oh,
To be fair, okay, first of all, actually, GDPR compliance is for big companies. Do you know what? So first of all, I think to an extent, it depends where you are speaking from. First, hear me out, hear me out, hear me out. Okay, this may not totally be as stupid as you think. So if you're speaking from like a country that's outside the EU,
mhm.
typically the territorial scope application of the GDPR, right, may not apply to most smaller companies or medium-sized companies that are outside the EU, provided they don't have any business with the EU as per like they're not advertising or supplying or giving any or they're not directly offering services or products to targeted specifically to the EU market, and
Oh,
then collecting EU data, they're not. So it may not, in that sense, I can see how, depending where you are, that could actually be,
so
it's not in itself a
literally I
truth, but
agree with
it
what you
can be
just
the
said.
reality of a lot of companies.
But the fact that they said GDPR compliance is for big companies
It's
implies
ridiculous,
yes.
objectively,
So
yes.
it's different if they said that GDPR compliance is not for all companies. Then what you have said better applies. But
So, and
it's
then
not for
even
the big
then, still
companies.
though, I think people also conflate GDPR with like just as a general term for data protection laws, irrespective of the jurisdiction.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
forget that there's a jurisdictional like scope too, and
Yeah,
most countries in
there's
the world now actually also have their own data protection regime. So you can't is
right. And it's not
GDPR,
just for big
yeah.
companies.
So okay, actually, if you say data protection compliance is for big companies only, well, that's foul. That's foul. That's a lie, right? But if you say um GDPR compliance may in certain instances apply only to the bigger companies in a country outside of the EU, then
So
you may be
Lizzie, you're
correct.
expanding it, right? This
I know
statement is
I don't disagree with your perspective. I'm just saying like these are the nuances, right?
well, you can say that, but I mean, just it's just I mean I
Yeah,
think
no, but it's
I
definitely
so
a ridiculous myth.
if the person was trying to communicate what you just said, then there are definitely better ways to put it because this could
And it
be
wouldn't have been a myth, would it?
yes, then it wouldn't have been a myth, it would have been a
It's
truth,
just a
right?
statement of the fact
Because
of
it's
the
not
obvious,
for
right?
all companies, and then territorial scope that are also applies, right? But the fact that they mentioned big, just it's anybody could see that, say, oh, so I'm a small company, so I don't need to comply, right?
I
So I
don't
think
need
there's
to,
just a
yeah,
lot
no,
of
that's a bad idea. So I don't need to do any sort of data protection compliance. That's probably
exactly.
not a good. Do you know, even like, and that's one thing that we're also, I mean, like in our plans so far, we have a planned episode, which we really hope you guys look forward to on like even small businesses have that, even like down to like your Instagram only vendor. Like there is compliance that
Yeah.
everybody should ideally incorporate, or compliant practices that people should ideally incorporate into their business practices. Because data protection is not just about like, oh, there's a law telling you to do it, and so you must do it. And no, it's not just that. It's actually about building trust with your customers. These are
Yeah.
actually, whilst they like form the part of a law and there's all these drama around it, there's actually this element of it that is just at the basic level. How do you make your customers trust you with their information?
Yeah.
And any business that relies on customer information to fulfill its service or to give its service or to give a product definitely needs some sort of compliance. So if you're a dispatch service, you need to have a compliance. If you're selling clothes on Instagram, you're taking address for delivery, right? You still need to have some sort of compliance. Like it's not just about, it's just so people can trust you. Right.
I mean, I'm definitely looking forward to that episode and the kind of
Yeah,
impact it
I
will
really
make,
do.
especially for small businesses. Such an episode, right? But I mean, on coming now to
Yes, come and give me the updates. What's been going on in my
see how
app?
you're talking, like I know everything that has happened.
No, because you've been here. That's the point. You're supposed
I've
to
been here.
rub mine.
So I mean, there's been quite a couple of developments that stuck out for me, right? Some funny, some exciting, some what like a year, some thumbs down. I mean, just a lot actually happened in this year. But one, okay, so I'd say not funny, not exciting, but interesting that happened was it happened in South Africa, and it was the information regulator finding the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development a fine, because I think there was like a security
Bang, bang,
compromise,
bang.
and they got fined, and it was like boss, like I mean it's a government
Bang,
institution
bang,
or a
bang. That's
governmental
it.
agency, and they're getting fined by another governmental agency, right? You rarely see this kind of things happen in the space, and it was a learning moment, and it was kind of quite exciting. And I hope to see other, regulators or authorities take a cue from this and sort of, weigh in on things that are happening in other governmental agencies and do something about it in terms of
You know
data
what?
protection.
That is actually, you see, South African information regulator, like this is one of the biggest moves, even not only in Africa, like just generally, the finding of a governmental agency by another governmental agency is a rare occurrence. It doesn't happen often. And
Yeah,
I
it
find that
doesn't.
when you now localize it for us, where like there's a big the energy around compliance is not as high as some of our global counterparts. I think that it's so nice to see a regulator actually say, you know what, everybody, the law is not just for some people, it's for everybody. So this regulation that requires you to comply, it also applies to government agencies. They're some of the biggest controllers in Africa, just generally. Government agencies are not even some of, they are the biggest. Because how many companies can rival that? How many companies have
Yeah.
that the volume of data? Even for us here in Nigeria, like think about how many millions of people are we now? I don't even know. Whatever the number of millions we are, last I checked, we're over 200 million, right? So you can imagine that a government agency, maybe such as, oh yes, look at us, National Identity Management, is it Management Commission, NIMC, that's giving out our national identity numbers, Nigerian Immigration Service that's giving us passports. Do you know how many
Yeah.
forget even passports, because passports, I think, is not a necessity to live in Nigeria now, but a national identity number is an absolute necessity. So
Necessity.
imagine if 200 million Nigerians have national identity numbers, even if let's say it's only half, 100 million Nigerians have national identity numbers, that means that they're processing the data, including sensitive or what can be
Yeah.
sensitive data of 100 million people.
I mean, that's a
100
lot.
million people. That is a lot. That is a lot. And if it was a corporate entity that was managing that volume, they would definitely get more attention drawn to them, as we see with a lot of the social media tech giants. They have a
Yeah.
lot more attention. And this is extremely, like, it's a large and it's a massive volume of data that they're processing. So when you then think about, like, oh, that's even like one only electoral commission. Gov-
Ah,
I'm
let's not get into that.
electoral commission, like there's still, let me not even say anything. Sorry, I
Please,
don't
let's
even,
not go into
I don't
it.
even, I'm gonna say it. They're still pasting lists at universities, as private universities, no, not that. Government universities. Do you know the volume of students that go through places? Like there's so many large, especially for us here in Nigeria. The government is literally the largest processor of data that we have. Largest processor,
Yeah. Always
controller
is
of
and
data
always
that
will
we
be,
have.
actually.
So compliance, like if this year, fortunately, we had the Nigerian Data Protection Act. One development I am aware of, I was aware of at the time, right? But like, and we now have the Nigerian Data Protection Bureau is now the Nigerian Data Protection Commission, under the
Yeah.
leadership and everything, just that it's transitioned to a separate entity. I really truly hope sincerely that it comes, that they take following the footsteps of the South African Data Protection Regulator and
Yeah.
giving the government a reason to sit up in terms of
I
how
mean,
it
you
might.
want to ensure that your house is in order before you go outside. That's how I
No,
see it. I
because
mean,
I feel like it can be very hypocritical for like data protection authorities to fine private companies, especially the big private companies, when the government itself that they're part of is not doesn't quite have its house in order. You know, the
yeah.
one that also gets me as well, for us, for African DPs as well, especially African DPs themselves are not compliant sometimes.
I'm not in this conversation. I refuse to speak. I refuse to
This
make
is a
comments.
table that I'm happy to break.
I refuse to make
Yeah.
comments.
Like there's so many sitting on the table of the regulator itself is not compliant.
I
How do
fully
you want to,
agree.
and I think
Even
that
to basic things such as, getting your, privacy notice right for their, for the kind of data they process or their websites or their privacy statements or transparency statements. I think a lot of them quite they don't do the best or they don't do the most, and it's, I mean, these are basic requirements, so I think there's a lot to be, so I think before there's like a fining spree and all these things, regulators need to first ensure that their house is in order in terms of their own practices, in terms of training for their own staff, and then other governmental agencies before now saying, okay, now that we've gotten our house in order. And the period where they're doing this is also time for private organizations to take a cue from what's being done, what they're doing, and then implement it in their
exactly.
own in their own practices. So I think there's still a lot to do before there's like a fining spree and everybody's fearing
Yes.
the fine from a regulator.
When you take out that element of hypocrisy, so where they themselves are compliant and so they can go out and tell other people, I think they will be able to take bigger swings at um at
Bold, bigger swings.
because I mean, look at Kenya. Like, I mean, Kenya DPA has one of the more active, is one of the more active data protection authorities in Africa. And I heard that they had this massive world coin drama this year. Something about
Ah, I mean,
sensitive
something that I
personal
learned.
data.
Yeah, go ahead.
Something about sensitive personal data, facial recognition, iris
Exactly.
scanning, and things like that. And I think what's WorldCoin itself? Is it not like a what is it?
I can't remember what they
What did
initially
you
set
do
out to
there?
do, what they registered under. But I think one valuable lesson that this whole WorldCoin situation taught me was, and as I've always known and said, registration is not foolproof. I don't see the essential purpose of asking data controllers and data processors to register. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's totally, it should be condemned, but I don't see the real essence. And even if you do practice it, I'd like to say it's not foolproof, because I know that a lot of African laws have, implemented like a
Registration
system or form
requirements,
of
yeah.
registration. It's not
Licensing, yeah.
foolproof.
Mm. No, but you know the thing is, let me say this, right? For the kind of funding that DPAs get here, right? Which if you compare to what their European counterparts get, it's quite small. I think registration can be, in a weird way, a way to raise money for them to actually do the work that they need to do. It is a strange thing to say that they're raising money from the people that they're seeking to regulate. But
Yeah.
registration fees definitely will pay some salaries. And they really need more salaries paid. Like, I don't know, I'm trying to play the devil's advocate here and just think from the perspective of the
I
regulator
mean,
that
but
perhaps
wouldn't
registration is not just a
that
compliance
that
measure.
seems like just the easy way out? Because wouldn't the better thing to do to be get your house in order, ensure people are implementing, and then now you don't do what you're supposed to do, or you experience a breach that is as a result of your own carelessness or negligence, and then you go ahead and find them. Isn't that more of a, because that way more people learn that, oh, we can and cannot do certain things, and
So
there's more enforcement, or there's more fear for enforcement, and people actually comply.
I mean, for clarity, WorldCoin, what happened was that they withdrew the registration, so they can no longer process,
Yeah.
right? But see, okay, so then you now take, for example, what happened in Europe this year. So we had the record fine of 1.2 billion.
Oh wow.
Yeah, 1.2 billion. Oh, I
Can
believe it's
someone just give me
1.2
that money?
billion euros, which is $1.3 billion. That tops what it
Crazy.
was before. As of 2022, the record fine was 746 million euros, which translates to 781 million dollars. Right. So we're at a fine of now $1.3 million. Just let's put it in dollars so everyone can follow the conversation. What point does finding stop generating the response you want, which is compliance, and simply starts being okay, we know they're going to fine us, so they put a budget for fines. I think that's the danger with fines. You were saying basically that the regulators
Yeah.
would
But I mean, so the thing
use
is,
fines instead
for
of
some companies,
registration.
I think a lot of some big techs have come to think of fines as a part of their business. So they
It's
create a
just
budget for
business
it,
as
to
usual,
be
right?
honest,
Yeah.
right? And because I think on their own part, they think of it in terms of you can't really, there's so much you
And they're
can do to
operating
really
in a
avoid
high
risks,
risk
right?
environment in the sense that they're literally when they break the laws is when the laws are being made to react to their breaking of the laws. Like, they
Fair
themselves don't
point.
know. They're just doing things that are balancing their commercial interests with
Exactly,
whatever
right.
existing laws are there at the time. And I mean, look at the whole drama this year. Well, this was one of the first things I actually found out when I started doing my reading again. And it was about this whole drama about behavioral advertising. Apparently that was a big topic this year.
I think it
So
will even be bigger in the coming year.
I agree. I actually think it would be bigger. I think it would be bigger. But oh my God, one thing that really shook me this year, I can't lie, and this one shook me because if you were even under the ground, the same way that if you were even in, I don't know where you could be, you would know about this. How could they have banned ChatGPT? We were so excited about it at the beginning of the year, and then Europe was like, people, this is nonsense. Bye bye. Like, why would they ban? That was a big thing. That was a big moment. But
Was
is
it
it
was it
open?
in all of Europe or just certain European countries?
I don't even know. I
Because I
don't
know
know.
I think it was just in certain countries. I can't remember the country, but I think it was just in one country, one or two
One
countries.
country, right? I think so too,
Yeah.
but I wasn't really following up on the gist like that. But yeah, I think it was just maybe I think it was one country. I think it was a particular regulator. Um,
Yeah.
yes, but then I think they now did full when they did the reforms, it was applicable throughout. It was Italy. Yeah, I thought as much. It was Italy that banned ChatGPT. Um, yeah, I think I'm looking at it now and oh,
I mean, I don't
oh.
totally agree with the
Oh,
ban, right?
oh, wow. Oh, wow. Okay, interesting. There were some other countries that banned it, but like they're not in Europe. But in Europe was Italy that
Yeah.
banned
But I
from.
don't I would rather than ban, I would have said that what should have been done would probably be like a stakeholder engagement to say, oh, these are the risks we've discovered in this product. Because I mean it's a great innovation, right? And even the thing is there's so much you can do to ban these things. When citizens realize that this is really good, they find a way to boycott the process. And I remember the time when a social media platform was banned in Nigeria and people found a way to boycott it, right?
Of course,
I'm not
everybody
gonna
was
mention,
using a certain VPN. That's all I have to say.
right?
But
And
yes.
thinking thinking about it in terms of what should have been done would have been probably like a stakeholder engagement to say, oh, these are the risks that were found. How do we, um maybe mitigate this risk? What sort of like a sit down or engagement to sort of
Yes,
identify
I
these
think stakeholder
problems.
engagement
This is
is
how,
really
yeah, well, this is how we're
underrated.
going to solve it. So the citizens are better protected, right? Rather than just ban, right? That's just I don't think it's the most innovative approach to regulating.
But the funny thing is that sometimes bans get response from the regulator's perspective. I'm just playing devil's advocate, okay? Or regulators advocates. I think that's what I'll call myself. Reg
So
advocates,
last year
okay?
you were eating a long man. This year you're regulators advocates.
A
Okay.
regulators advocates, okay. I think that sometimes regulators sometimes they feel they need to take the most drastic or use their hardest hands just so that they can especially with stuff like AI, where with AI is the mystery of AI is that AI is like this, especially with all the newer versions of AI, the newer iteration of AI, which is
Yeah.
what we're seeing more of now, which is self-learning AI that basically is generating organic responses, and it is responding to real-time queries that is not preset answers. It's pulling from sources of information
Yeah.
and giving you your best possible answer, right? That's the idea of the AI, right? And I think that the way that we moved from chatbots being the most inventive thing. So all these a chatbot is basically on a website where you go, you click on if you want to talk to the customer service, it's
Yeah.
there's a robot on the page that helps you assist you in shopping or whatever. And we moved right all the way to ChatGPT that's helping students write term papers in school. It was really like a full-on 365. Oh, sorry, 360. Like it
Yeah.
was so fast. Like we just all started the year and then there was ChatGPT. Maybe for me, because I wasn't really involved in AI stuff, I didn't know that this was possible. I remember we had started seeing things like, what's that thing? The thing where you can fake people's faces, deep fakes.
Deepfakes.
Had
Yeah.
seen AI that was able to do deep fakes. We now even saw this was the year of the photo shoot too. I remember seeing people posting
I didn't do that.
shots that AI
I
generated
didn't do that
faces.
with any of my pictures.
AI generated images. Then you remember
Images.
a
Yeah.
few years ago as well, where there was this website where you could show yourself at different ages. So if you put a picture of yourself, it will show you as a 60-year-old,
Even
as a
taking out the
35-year-old.
one for different ages, it was there was this particular one that was really popular where you put a picture of you and your fiancé or your boyfriend, and it gives you a picture of the what your child would likely look like. And
Oh my
everybody
God, yeah,
was
there
like,
was that one.
my
There are
child will
all
be
these
cute.
exactly. And we moved from there to, oh,
Oh,
this is you supplying a piece of information for a thing to give you something, to this is this
yeah.
thing that is extremely a black box. Like you don't know, it just pulls information from everybody's things and then just suddenly provides you an answer. And it provides you a great answer. Well, I mean,
Not
subject,
every time. Not
well,
every time. I
well,
disagree. Not every
I
time.
mean, I don't think it's every time too, but at least it's poised as something that
Yeah.
will provide
But
you the
but
best
so
answer.
here's how I feel about it. Just like as an aside, right? I Someone close to me says never ask ChatGPT a question you don't necessarily have an answer to,
That's
because you really don't know if it's just giving
if it
you,
tells you nonsense, you're on your own.
because sometimes
You're
it
on your
really
own.
does, it takes things that are not entirely correct or things that don't even exist, right? I've gotten sort of a law that never existed, and I was searching for this law and trying to find it, and then voila, the law didn't even exist, right? So these are things that people need to
ChatGPT
watch
cannot
out
know
for.
if the law actually exists now. It just knows that someone spoke about a possible law. Whether the person was lying or not, that
No,
will
but
know.
so it says, oh, according to this law, this.
And now the person that wrote the original article or source where it put that information for
So
said that the
it's not.
law
So
said that.
it's supposed to. It's then it should probably cite according to this article. This, but when their
That's the thing
answers
about
are,
ChatGPT now, and that's why it's having a lot of problems in terms of the IP people, because they say it doesn't give credit it doesn't give credit to the source that it pulls the information from.
exactly. I know I saw this really exciting case. I mean, this is more IP related where
Yeah, it's not, but I mean, it's
authors
part of the
were
gist for the year. And IP and privacy are related. So,
but so this one was more. This case was more IP related in terms of authors were suing ChatGPT for not citing them or for not giving them credit for
oh
their
yeah, I
sources,
saw
or
that.
using their inventions or their sources or whatever without permission or without their consent, something like that, right? And it was really an exciting case. I think I read a bit about it. Yeah, I think there's going to just be a lot of AI regulations or bill
And there were regulations last
or
year. Did you know
policies.
last year it was like, and I think that Brussels effect thing that happened with GDPR.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna happen in AI as well because AI last year GDPR sorry last year there was the EU AI Act, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And I think that what's going to happen is that a lot of countries are also going to respond by implementing their own AI Act, because I think I feel like Europe is fast becoming the one to look up to for regulatory measures in terms of let me say new technology. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
technology. Because also, I mean, like, yeah, I think that what's gonna happen is that we're going to have a lot of countries, especially African countries, implementing AI laws. Now, the only thing that I would say,
Okay. I'm with you.
Yeah, is there someone that has someone done it? Because it's possible. Are
I'm
you
not
hearing
entirely
anything?
sure. I'm aware there were a lot of bills and policies, right?
Uh-huh. What did I
Um,
say?
I'm a bit wary of the bills because sometimes for
It never go anywhere.
not even that they never go anywhere. A part of it feels like we've not even come into there's so much that we're doing in the space in terms of being major players in the space of creating this kind of technology that has to do with AI, right? So
Hmm.
rather than like outright bills to say don't do's, don'ts, I think
See,
we should be really going in the way like of policy directives,
yes, policy
right?
directives and maybe yes, directives. So not hard laws, regulations that are easy to update because the rate at which we do we the way lawmaking works and the way that it takes so much time, I think it's often better to have regulatory directives that actually are easily amendable. They can be changed, especially in response to the fast pace that tech changes and moves.
And I think something I would really recommend would be proper engagement, right? It's not just even regulating something that you're not
Yes,
even
engage
aware,
stakeholder
right? Like,
engagement, like you
yes,
said
because
earlier.
I mean, they're the ones who really know what the product is about or what it
Yeah.
could do or what they're possibly, in fact, what they're working on futuristically, right? In terms of the plans they have, right? So engage with them.
I'm really
So
hoping that we don't go the way of laws, like you said, with regards to AI. I think maybe we need to have
yes,
a
anyways,
generic law that lays a foundation for for regulatory initiatives. But then
yeah.
do you reckon that it should? So I saw this conversation online. Oh my God, I want to have it with you. So it was the question of should AI be regulated by data protection authorities, or should AI be regulated separately? Or
Hmm.
generally, should AI be regulated by existing regulators? Or regulated by there should be a separate regulator to regulate AI and AI related things. To be honest, I don't have an opinion. I don't either way. I don't know. I just think there needs to be somebody competent to regulate. And
I
I think
agree. And if
typically
competence will mean probably more like
experience,
a joint.
regulatory joint task force.
Yes, I don't like the way you said joint task force. Something like it seems like what I just want to arrest or fine, right? But I mean joint efforts by regulatory collaboration in terms of
Mhm.
regulating or in terms of policy directives or in terms of just ensuring there's growth and development in the space in the tech space. I would say, I mean, I think existing regulators are, and that's my own opinion, right? And it's not like backed by hardcore statistics, right? But I
It's just
just think
opinion.
that it would be at least for now, and I'm speaking for Africa, right?
Mhm.
I'll say for now, I think that it would be better to have already existing regulators sort of collaborate to regulate.
But you know, the thing with already existing regulators is I feel like in Africa, their mandate, their scope is really large already. So um
Is
because
it?
yes, they have massive, like they have a lot of work to do. They've not even finished doing their work. You're not adding another one. I feel like AI might just go in the back burner. But I also feel like in terms of funding, if you establish another a regulator for AI now, who's going to fund it? Where is the funding coming from?
Yeah, there's already like some issues with some regulators and funding and capacity in terms
Yes,
of
and
manpower
capacity and
to
competence to even do the
yeah.
tasks that they have, right? Talk less of the ones that they don't they do.
Thankfully we're not the government. So moving on.
Moving on, fair enough. Oh, also, I mean, there was also finally. Okay, so I don't know if you also heard, like, of course, I mean, if you're under the work, you'll have heard about the data protection framework, which finally has come to replace the the struck down privacy shield. Yeah,
Yeah.
and hopefully in another 2, 3 years, I think they say it's every 2 years. In another 2, 3 years, the data protection framework would be struck down again, maybe in James 3.
I
Yes,
mean,
because I feel like the issues are so fundamental that I don't know that the frameworks that they propose ever really do anything. I feel like the US has to have a fundamental overhaul of laws to really accommodate what the EU courts are saying, right? But I mean, and also, do you know there's already a case apparently?
I just
I
feel
saw
like
this when I was researching another episode
it's
that it's not
it's not a
Martin
matter that
Luther.
could be it's not a matter that has a solution in the now.
It's literally fundamental. They're literally fundamentally different thought processes for the both countries. They are fundamentally legislative approaches. I don't understand how they are still thinking. You see, I feel like if they want to stop making data protection look like more and more of a pipe dream sort of to achieve any suitable international efforts, like international exchange of data, there needs to be, I don't know, some sort of discussion had about, okay, we acknowledge that you guys you're not capable of doing this. So we need to find a fix that recognizes your incapacity. Because I don't know. Anyway, well, I mean, speaking of closer to home data protection issues, what has been happening? International data transfer. Has anybody cracked it in Africa yet? Because
So I would say cracked it, but something really exciting slash amazing slash funny happened, and it was quite an innovative matter, right? So what happened was, so with the whitelist, leaders whitelist, right? Because as at that time they were, as a the year where the whitelist was released, they were the data protection regulators. There were a lot of countries, or not a lot, there were some countries on that list that didn't quite follow NIDA's own rules in terms of, they must have adequate, they must be able to, protect, they must either have a law or a regulator, or be able to adequately ensure that data, the people's data they're protected, right? So the leader had rules to, for the whitelist. So there was like a
yeah, I think
criteria to meet.
you had something similar, yeah, to give
So
yeah.
yeah, I'm with you.
The adequacy decision is the same principle as the adequacy decision.
Yeah,
So the
so
one
there were
minute is
quite a
the
number of
adequacy
countries that
decision.
didn't meet that criteria, and they were on the list. And for the life of me, I don't understand why the authorities also didn't release like a reason, like a proper analysis to say this is the reason why we're putting this country on it, right? They didn't do that for any of the countries. And then Ikigai Innovation Initiative challenged this matter in court, and I think the matter went out for about I think they claimed that they had earlier reached out to the regulators to say, oh, this you guys need to check this or fix this or review this, and nothing was done. And I think the matter went on for about a year or a year plus, and eventually the courts invalidated the whitelist.
Shout out to our sponsors. Best choice in privacy. Wink, wink.
Right, and that's I mean
Ikigai is our sponsor, by the way. Is it one of our sponsors? We have Tech Hive and Ikigai as sponsors on the podcast. And this is by no means biased to them as sponsors, but just thinking
I think
about
it's something really big, right? And in terms of what this now means for businesses, right? I know there's a lot that could probably play in the mind of players in the space. What now happens? Do we pause it, transfer
Yes,
totally?
because technically they can't transfer to those countries, right? It's like
So
striking down
I think
the
there are
adequacy
other
decision.
mechanisms, right? I think it's a
Yes,
matter of reviewing to find
BCR.
what mechanism you can rely on for your transfers, right? So companies
Yeah,
will need to review, but I
yeah.
also think on the part of regulators, they probably could go to court to probably say, oh, maybe a stay on the action. I don't know what you guys call it legally, right? Till they probably put out a new whitelist, or sort of maybe, I don't know, but I would say they could also appeal the matter to say, okay, maybe the courts can invalidate parts of the whitelist and leave the countries that are that meet the criteria, right? So
I mean,
I just think there's a lot that could happen in terms of this judgment. But I think it's really innovative that they did this, and it's something that I found quite exciting.
so this is technically Shrimps 2, Nigerian edition. Because what happened with Shrimps 2 was that the Privacy Shield was on it had received an adequacy decision. So technically that's our own version of what we call the whitelist, right?
I
But there
think
were some that
I think for me the issue was that the regulators at the time, or regulators after, didn't sort of publish proper analysis to say, like, there was no transparency in the release of the whitelist to say, oh,
which
this
there should
country, this
be.
is our analysis of it, this is why they
Yeah.
deserve to be on the whitelist, right? Being transparent in that approach to show the mindset and approach of the regulators in terms of putting out that list.
Such that if there's any change in that status, they can easily say, okay, this was what we presumed at the time we gave the adequacy decision, which is we put them on the white list. And now, because they no longer fulfill the specific criteria, we're taking it off, which is exactly what we saw with. So, I mean, like, I understand that's a very massive step for us, because it then makes sure that there's more intentionality with regards to.
And more transparency.
Yes, more transparency with regards to international data transfers. But like, I really look forward to that. I mean, I mean, I really look forward to a different regime for us in privacy in Africa, where
Right.
exam
I mean,
transparency is encouraged.
we probably will just look ahead and see how the matter plays out, or how the outcome, how the decision plays out in terms
Please
of
out.
practicability.
Yeah. How many countries now have data protection laws in Africa? How many? What
Oh,
number are
I
you up
don't
to?
think I know a number, but
I
I know
don't. I wonder. I feel like we need to keep a counter.
right.
Oh,
I
we'll
think
work on it.
I think it's about I don't want to give a figure, but I know that for some of the countries that did release laws last year, I mean Nigeria, so kudos to us. Um let's not say Nigeria, kudos to us. It will not seem like we're a Nigerian privacy podcast. So let's just say
Okay,
yes.
Nigeria.
So
Yes.
some of the countries that did release a whitelist, sorry, I said whitelist. Some of the countries that did release new laws.
How did we miss it?
I don't know, but yeah,
I
they
turned
turned
5 in
five.
2023. So, like, it's been 5 years of all the GDPR memes.
Actually.
Yeah, GDPR turned 5. The law that everybody was, oh, it's gonna change everything. Everything's gonna be changed. It's gonna be different from now on. And then, yeah, it really came into force, and everyone, they were making jokes out of it. But yeah, GDPR turned 5. That was another thing that happened last year that I am aware of. Yeah. See
I
how
think
Delapo reeled off the list of countries that have new laws, that have enforcement. That's how you know somebody that has been in the
you
fold.
today I have no words for you. I was going to mention that some countries also released drafts, right?
Oh, ooh, I love that.
I think Cameroon, Ethiopia, Malawi, they released drafts. Namibia as well. They released draft laws, right?
Mhm.
So I think maybe a prediction for the coming years that those laws probably I don't want anybody to come and say, or let me say I'm optimistic. So somebody come and hold me and say, oh, you got
Yeah, sorry,
20% in
Queen
this
of
prediction.
predictions. Queen
Right.
of
So
predictions.
yeah, I think I'm optimistic that some of those laws would get signed, especially when they've gone through all the,
Regulatory,
public comment stage. They've asked for comments. There's like stakeholder engagement,
regulatory,
right?
regulatory rigmarole.
Yeah, so I'm
Okay, no.
optimistic that some of these laws will come into force. So not come into force, some of these laws will be signed.
Funny enough, I'm actually looking forward to more enforcement in Africa generally. I
Yeah.
think our data protection laws are getting more seasoned. So like, we're counting years on the existence of data protection regimes in several countries, more countries now than before. And so that means that I think generally the regulatory the courage of the regulators, or yes, or strength, the hammer of the regulators basically will get heavier. I think we'll see more regulatory action. We'll see more, because as they're also stabilizing in terms of even the people that they're employing, strategic focus of the regulators, I think it's becoming clearer. You can see that there's a shift or a move
Yeah.
in terms of regulators. So I really hope that that turns into more enforcement. I think we need to see that. I think it would encourage
And
um
speaking of enforcement, we're hopeful that there are more enforcement actions against government entities or government agencies, especially the ones that are, or the ones who are erring or who are not compliant with data protection legislation.
yeah.
That's something I'm not sure it will happen, but it's definitely something I'm optimistic about. I think, and I would say something that I'm also looking forward to is, I know we mentioned this, or two things I'm also looking forward to would be probably the release of a new whitelist by the NDPC, right?
So
I'm
that's
I'm
the
really
Nigerian
looking
Data
forward to
Protection
how that's
Commission.
going to play out, right? I'm following the matter on with
I
my
think they will. They don't have a choice. It's better than actually appealing and telling the court to do. They just release a new list. Just release a new list. And but then the issue would be then that they have to do the work of making sure that they have all the
yeah, like do the actual work and not just not just rush work, do the actual work, do
yeah,
like a proper analysis of each country. And I think that takes
time.
a certain level time, it takes a certain level of manpower, it takes also a certain level of knowledge base.
Yeah, fair. I
Yeah.
mean, fortunately, they have people that have done a lot of this work, I think,
Yeah, which is why
it's
I feel
not
like there needs to
it's
be like
not
more engagement in
yes,
terms of people who already do these things.
that have published, not even professionals. I mean, like other countries have done adequacy
Yeah,
decisions. Ehen. Literally, other countries have done it. Other countries are constantly updating their list. So I'm not saying they should copy, but I'm saying that it's not a new thing, that they're not trying to break new ground. They have a template to work with. They're not working out of nothing.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty interesting stuff. How about your optimisms or for the podcast this season? I mean, that's what I want to hear.
Hmm. So I'll say definitely wider range of listeners. I know that we had listening that cut over how many countries last season?
They were quite a bit. I think we published
Yeah,
it on LinkedIn. Yes, it was
I
quite.
think almost seven.
I was so proud. Like
I
we
know,
were.
like I think 7 countries, 3 continents. I'm not sure, but I think it was quite a number, and I was very excited. So I mean, definitely wider reach, bringing more exciting guests onto the podcast. Like I can't wait to see. I mean, we don't even know everyone we're bringing yet, right? But I can't wait to see the amazing guests we have, right? So I
Yeah.
think that's 2 things I'm really excited for.
Yeah, I think there were 8 countries. Eight
Yeah.
countries. Yeah. Yeah, so for me, my optimism for the new season, or my what I'm looking forward to about the new season, I'm actually looking forward to us getting some sponsorships because yeah, I really want, and if you're out there listening and you want to sponsor an episode of the podcast,
Yeah,
please reach out to us. Literally, literally
definitely.
reach out to us. I
We're
feel like
happy to
we,
collaborate.
yeah, to
We're happy
collaborate
to
and
work
exactly.
with interested sponsors. We're really happy to, we preach collaboration.
Yeah, exactly. Stakeholder engagement. Wink, wink.
And we're
Yeah,
definitely stakeholders.
stakeholder engagement. We're here for you. So we're looking forward to getting some sponsorship so we can actually take um some more sponsorships because we have 2 sponsors already, but we need more sponsorships so we can really take the podcast to a new level in terms of the content that
Yeah,
we deliver to you guys and just generally how the podcast is.
I
I
totally
think we
agree.
can have I think one thing we're really looking forward to doing some more of is like doing live episodes, like doing episodes that are
Yeah.
in like video episodes. I feel like that would be so cool. Yeah, so we're really looking forward to doing that. Yeah, so yeah, we give a good deal, but yeah, we're really looking
I
forward
mean,
to
if you have, I think also any kind of support,
yes, any kind of
right?
support. If you
Yeah.
guys you
Yes, welcome to season
welcome.
3 officially. We're very happy to have you as a fan, as a friend of the house and of the pod for this season, and we look forward to having an amazing season with you.
And hopefully hopefully you enjoy us more this season. I mean,
Yes.
yeah. And also like we asked for comments and feedback, so please kindly leave us some.
Yes,
Thank
yes, 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 yes,
you.
yes, yes.
All
Thank
right.
you, everyone.
Have a nice day. Enjoy yourself, and we hope you enjoyed some of our highlights or some of the Lakpos highlights of the
Some of our
year.
highlights.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
bye.
bye, everyone.
Until next time.
Yeah, you it remains our lovely DPO and I, Itunde. This episode was sponsored by Ikigai Innovation Initiative and was brought to you by Tech Hive Advisory.
And a big shout out to our executive producer, Ridwan Oluyede, associate producers, Dolakwan Yetunde.
This podcast was edited by Ayonfe Aino, shout out to her, and our podcast associate Victoria Adaramola, and graphics by Okwe Abujade.